We're ready to start. This is the May 8th meeting of the Grosse-Ile Township Public Services Commission. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to call the roll. Poziesk? Present. Riley? Yes. Kent? Here. Budney? Present. Benaz? Yes. Kostick? Everybody is present, and we do still have one vacancy on the commission. And entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Mr. Benaz?
I'd like to make a motion to remove discussion item number 1 from the agenda.
Okay, that is regarding a water bill that's no longer needed to discuss. It's been resolved. Any other changes? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we have approval of the minutes of our April 10th meeting, and I'd like to compliment our secretary, Miranda. You did a great job with what was a lengthy meeting and captured everybody's sentiments and thoughts, so thank you very much. With that, I'm going to have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Moved and supported that the minutes of our April 10th meeting be approved as distributed.
I'll abstain, of course.
Okay. Please note Mr. Riley abstains. He wasn't here. Any further comments, changes, suggestions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the minutes are approved. Next, you have vouchers from the DPW, pages 13 through page 17. You've had a chance to look those over. And at this point, we're in the beginning of the fiscal year. Both this report and our report of statement of revenues and expenses looks like many things aren't even posted yet because this is the first month of the fiscal year. So are there any questions on the vouchers?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Moved and supported that the vouchers as distributed to us in our agenda packet be approved. Any questions? If there are none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved. We also have a statement of revenues and expenses, and as I say, it looks like very little has been posted yet for the first month of the fiscal year, which is April, begins April 1st. Any questions? If not, we'll just receive and file the statement of revenues and expenses. Next is the Treasurer's Report. Likewise, it looks like very little has been posted on that to date. So on page 27, you have the Treasurer's Report. Any questions on that? It shows that our revenue today in all of our public works funds, the balance is $2,350,689. That's an accumulation of all of our public works funds. And on the back side, you'll see our storm drain fund, bike path fund, and our road improvement fund. And I do know that as far as the road improvement fund, that the revenue has not been posted, beginning with tax collections for this year. Hopefully we'll get all that in our next month report. So we have to receive and accept the Treasurer's Report by motion.
Move to approve.
Any questions? Second? Is there a second to it?
I'll second it.
Moved and supported that the Treasurer's Report for April be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Before we get into the manager's report, I would like to introduce, we don't have a very big audience tonight. We have one gentleman in the audience, Phil Kennedy. Phil, welcome to our meeting. Ted and I met with Phil over a week ago. Phil's had an application in to serve on the DPS Commission for well over a year now, and we have a vacancy. We talked with Phil. I'm happy to report that he's very interested in serving. has a keen interest in our roads, which I'm happy about. I've sent a note to Mr. Loftus, our supervisor, and the trustees, indicating that it would be my hope that they would appoint Phil Kennedy to serve with us. So I just thought I invited Phil to be here tonight. Ted, or do you have any questions? Or?
I know that is going to be on the agenda for next Monday's board meeting.
So Phil, I don't want to ask you to say anything tonight yet, unless you want to. It's a public meeting, so we're pleased you're here.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's
Okay. Okay, manager's report. Barry, item number 1, Tires and Electronics Waste Event, May 12th at the Kennedy Ice Rink in Trenton.
Yes, this event is going to take place this Saturday, and it's going to be held at, you're correct, Bill, Kennedy Ice Rink in Trenton. It's sponsored by Riverview, Trenton, Gibraltar, and Groseal. And what they're doing is collecting tires, old tires, car tires, and electronic waste, any electronic device that needs to be disposed of. I haven't confirmed it yet, but rumor has it that they're also, for a nominal fee, going to be doing some shredding of documents for people. But I heard that there's going to be a small fee for that, but that's something that came late. So if you're interested in that part of it, check with me, and I'll confirm what's taking place as far as the shredding goes, and I can follow up. But yes, that's this Saturday. It starts at 8 o'clock, and I think it goes through 1 in the afternoon.
The Kennedy Ice Rink is on West Road?
Yes, it's on West Road, right near Westfield. That's right across the street from the Trenton Library. It's between Fort Street and Allen Road in that vicinity.
Are we going to post this on our...
Yes, it's posted.
Posted? Mm-hmm. So tires are a big thing, and then electronics, this includes computers and old TVs. What else?
Any electronics, old telephones, computers, anything electronic, they will take. The tires, I think they're limiting them to actually car tires, automobile-type tires. No truck tires, I think, will be accepted. Just as a note, we had to dump the junk here this Saturday and Sunday here at Groseal. We collected like 40 car tires. So we're disposing of them ourselves, so pretty popular. The second item is Wayne County is sponsoring another household hazardous waste collection. That's going to be held on June the 23rd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Henry Ford Community College on Evergreen in Dearborn. There again, the county has been doing quite a few of these throughout the year. In fact, this is going to be about the third one, I think, this year already that they're doing that. This is also posted on our website, so if you want further information on that, just check the website. If that doesn't work for you, give us a call. We'll explain what's going on regarding that. And that is at no charge to any resident that lives in Wayne County.
And this also includes electronic recycling.
Yeah, this is, yes, pretty much any household. This is more of primarily a hazardous waste collection thing, but they are accepting cell phone, any electronic computer devices, they're collecting them also. But it's mainly geared toward like household hazardous waste material that you can't get rid of in your normal trash pickup at the curb.
Okay, any questions about that? This is something that goes on twice a year, basically, the household hazardous waste, in spring and in the fall. Okay, so now that we've gotten rid of all that, it occurs to me, people in the audience, do you have a copy of the agenda? There's one right behind you on the little table. I also want to acknowledge that we now have a couple of people in the audience, and Tom Malvesto, trustee for the township, is present. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom is a former member of this DPS commission, and we're delighted to see you here. So, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Item number 3 under the manager's report, and you can feel free to speak on any issue if you want, Tom, or ask any questions. So item number 3 is a status update on road repair bid request.
Yes.
Before you get into it, I just want to mention that at our meeting on April 10th, the commissions met at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we drove the roads for a couple hours. We put together a list of repairs that basically are from the north end of the island to the south end, with a value of $150,000 to $200,000. When I talk about repairs, this could be crack sealing, it could be slab replacement where concrete slabs are breaking up, or around catch basins there's a few caving in. Some sections of asphalt pavement are badly deteriorated. So every year we do this, and last year, because we didn't have the money, we weren't able to take on repairs. But thank you to the voters for approving the 4/10 of a mil that we requested last year, and so now we have upwards of $220,000 a year that we can put into road repairs, in addition to what we hope the county will do. But basically, our money is going into what we call neighborhood roads, local roads, and we hope that the county, who owns the whole road system, will make repairs, and we're going to discuss this tonight on our major roads. So with that, I'm sorry, Barry, I'll let you give an update.
That's okay. Basically, the update is I had a meeting with C.E. Rain's company this week regarding the road repairs. They're putting the bid package together right now. Probably will have it ready to bid within a week or two. The bid package basically is going to consist of unit prices. For slab replacement, as Bill mentioned, asphalt repairs, crack sealing. There'll be unit prices for all of those items, and it'll be basically how much the township wants to spend in different areas around the community. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the amount we threw out there was about $50,000 initially?
For crack sealing?
Well, no, for the entire...
No, it was $160,000.
It was? Okay.
I think because we had $50,000, we just picked that figure, feeling it was enough. That's my recollection.
Okay.
We roughly put some costs, I think, and we may be on the high side. But I think we had about $160,000, including $50,000 for a joint seat.
Okay. Well, like I say, basically it's going to be a unit price bid, so we'll be able to do, depending on how the prices come in, if we get some reasonable prices, we'll be able to do more for our dollar, obviously. So kind of anxious to get those prices in and see what they're going to look like. I'm done.
Okay, my question on that is, will the bid report be in our June agenda?
I would expect it to be, yes.
And at that time, if we have the unit prices, will you and Sohail, our engineer, examine just what we set out to do and how much more we can do or how much less we're going to have to do, and try to give us some idea how that's going to work, so we can, if we have to add additional, or if we can add additional, we may want to. The concern I have is after we did the ride, I found a couple other spots I wish we'd driven. One of them was Gray's Drive, where the high school is. There's a couple of areas where I would guess we could easily replace a dozen slabs that are almost beyond patching.
Yeah. Well, once we get the unit price bid to us, then we can go around and be more site-specific as to what we want to do. You know, we'll be able to actually narrow it down. We'll know what the costs are, so as we go around and pick the different areas that you had on the list, we'll be able to determine what those are going to cost, and we can add additional if we have the funds to do it. So.
Okay, so the bottom line is we're going to count on that report. The minutes will reflect, hopefully, that we would like to have all that information brought back to us at our June meeting.
I'll give that information to Ryan.
That meeting is June 12th. Let's open up for any questions from the commission.
Not a question, but that Gray's Drive is pretty important. It's heavily used with all the activities at the schools. You get other people engaging on the island back and forth to the schools, and I think that probably is a negative when the roads are bad, because the roads aren't perfect everywhere in Wayne County, but that spot Bill's talking about, they're really bad. And if we could get those fixed, it would be nice.
I think 2 years ago we spent about $20,000, maybe not that much, but we fixed a number of slabs on Gray's 2 years ago, and the county came out and patched. In fact, they came out this spring and patched again. with asphalt, but it needs more now, John, so you're right. Any other comments on this topic?
Mr. Chairman, once we get the bid, we'll be able to go over and maybe change. Are you saying we can maybe change? For instance, we have the replacement of 2 catch basins on Canterbury. There's actually a catch basin right around the corner from that that's even worse, that probably should be substituted if
Sure.
you can't add it.
Sure, and that's what I mean. Once we get the costs in hand, then we can go out in the field again on the streets and actually determine exactly what we want to do, and then we'll know exactly what it's going to cost also. So, yeah, we can add things, delete things, whatever the commission so desires.
Jim, maybe on that issue, if you could maybe get that information to Barry, or maybe he could go look at it with you,
Yeah.
so he has
Sure.
an idea. You know, if the unit prices for a square of concrete or a section of asphalt come in good, and I understand that prices throughout the area for that kind of road work are coming in lower than expected by a lot of engineers, we might be able to do, just add things and accomplish quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah, Barry, I'll get with you.
Okay, do that, Jim.
Anybody from to my left have any comments? Ted, Wally, Frank?
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Item number 4 is the status on the drainage project on the south end of the township at Wilbur and South Point.
Yeah, yes, we've had a drainage issue in that area, a major drainage issue in that area for years. This year, it was placed in the budget as a line item to be taken care of. Right now, Raines is out there doing some topo work, some surveying to determine what the best route would be to run the pipe to drain that area. I met out there with Sohio about 2 weeks ago, and we had 2 alternatives. One, we could run the backyard over to Wilbur, and then it would have to go to South Point, to that catch basin area, or we can come between a couple of houses that are on Albemarle and tie into a storm sewer that's in that particular area. And it looks like right now, preliminarily, the Albemarle route is going to be the shorter and most cost-effective way to do it. Either way we go, we're going to be required to have a couple of easements from residents in the area to get the pipe between the houses. So that's something details will have to be worked out, and I'll work with the township manager to get those easements put in place. But right now, they're out there doing the topo work. Once that comes back in, we'll have a good idea of where we're going, and we'll move forward on that.
Good. So then that'll put you in a position, once you get the easements, that you can bid the job?
Yes, that's right. Once we get the easements, once we decide which route we're going to take, and then we get the easements necessary to run the piping, then the next item on the agenda will be the bid process.
Would you, my thought is to bring that back on the agenda, next meeting, give us an update.
I can.
And the reason I'm saying that is I'd like to see these improvements go forward as early this construction season as possible, so we don't get caught doing it in October when the people have mud all winter. I'd hope to be able to restore the grass by fall, if we can, and then solve the problem so by next spring it's not flooding anymore.
Yeah, this is one particular area up there that's been very bad. In that, probably it may affect 7 or 8 houses in that area, but the water in that backyard, I've seen it 3 feet deep. So
Right.
it's a problem that
So
needs
both
to be
items 3 and
corrected.
4, and some, maybe the wording will be different, but they'll appear on the next agenda as well.
Yes, I have updates for you.
Before you leave that item, I know it's not on the agenda, the other drainage problem, which you know is by Park Lane Elementary School, that's a little more complicated, and I know the engineers have been asked to begin to look at that.
Yes,
You know where that is?
Yeah, I know that they went out and took a look at it, and I think that they're kicking around a couple of different scenarios on how to drain that. One of them is removing the berm in the front. There's a berm along Park Lane that actually is causing some of the backup of the stormwater. So they're looking at that right now and trying to determine, or will determine, what the best course of action will be to drain that area.
And my thought on that is, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, John, we looked at it, got out of the car, but then that some people, some citizens who have a bit of history have indicated that maybe the schools contributed to that problem. They did some work in the area. And so once we have a plan, our thought is that we would approach the schools. And I assume that, Ted, you would be willing to go with me. And who else? Frank, is it you that has some history, knowledge of that?
No,
Was it Jim? It was you?
Bill, in fact, when they redid the parking lot and the front of the school, they took all their dirt and made that berm. So whenever they made their improvements on Park Lane is when they created the berm and the problem.
Not too many years ago, but
No, it's,
recent, fairly recent.
Well, the berm is unsightly. It's not mowable.
Yeah.
And behind it are 50, 60 dead trees that look like they're lying in what was a ditch. So maybe, Jim, you'd be willing to go?
yeah, absolutely.
So the idea is maybe a subcommittee of this commission will approach the schools and discuss solutions, participation. Okay, sorry, Barry, item number 5.
The last item on my report is status update on the traffic counts. As you recall, the commission directed me to have some traffic counts taken in 8 different locations around the island. Those traffic counters were put in place this afternoon. I haven't been out to take a look at them yet. I had reports, though, that they are out, and they're going to be in place until Friday afternoon. So we should be able to get a pretty accurate count of those areas, what you're looking for. So I'll be looking for the report on that when it comes back.
Okay, so I assume maybe by our June meeting we'll have that too?
Yes.
Okay. If we do, and you do have on your item, page 31 and 32, as the quote from the contractor, it's doing the traffic counts, and page 32, and I don't, this, they highlighted, staff highlighted where the counts are being taken. All right. Any questions on the manager's reports? Discussion items. Item number 2 is establish the date and details for the annual meeting with Wayne County. Barry?
I've been in contact with Wayne County. I talked to Ken Cusell and Cindy Dingle, and they are getting back to me on some dates that they're available to have our annual meeting. And right now, I have, Bill indicated to me that he would have liked to have it the first week in June, but there's 3 days in the first week in June that they're available. It's the 4th, 7th, and 8th. And then the second week in June will be the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So there's 6 days there that seems to be okay with Cindy at this time. I'm waiting for Ken's response. But we can use those 6 days to discuss it among the commission if you'd like, to see what works for you, and then I can pass that along to Ken and Cindy.
As far as the commission is concerned, since we're starting to zero in on a date, I know Ted Wood once talked about the first week of June. That would be June 4th, I guess, through the 8th. How does that look to members of the commission, or the following week, the 11th through the 15th? Are there any...
I have preference for the second week, sir.
Second week?
I
Anybody else?
I was just going to say I have a preference for the first week, but
Well, there you go.
I can work.
There you go. All right. Are there any days we should try to stay away from?
I will be out of town from Thursday on the first week through Sunday, or actually through Monday of the second week.
What are those dates, Ted?
I don't have
The first week, Thursday and Friday of that week, is the 7th and 8th. And then the following week, I believe the 13th, 14th, and 15th is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Don't hold me to that last one, but
Wednesday, Thursday,
yes,
Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Second
of the
week,
second
June
week.
11th through the 15th.
Yes,
4th is a Monday.
yes, it is.
that second week I wouldn't be available the 15th, that Friday.
13th and the 14th would work for me.
The 13th or 14th?
Yes.
Okay, I'm good those dates. 13th or 14th, Jim?
Yes.
John?
Fine.
Ken? Or Frank? Wally? Yep. Okay, we'll zero in on the 13th or 14th
Okay,
and see what we can make work.
okay, will do.
The next thing is regarding that meeting. I came up with a few items for the agenda, and I'd like to throw them out and ask for your input. And of course, if you don't have it tonight, you can always, if you come up with something, we can always add it. And when we get the agenda started, I'm going to ask Barry and Lorinda to mail it out to everybody or email it out, and then you'll have a chance to comment on it, and I'd appreciate your suggestions. But some possible agenda items that I came up with. The first one is, I thought we should, these are just ideas. We kick the meeting off asking Wayne County about one project we think we know that they may do this year, and that is East River Road. If you drive East River Road between Horse Mill and Macomb, and Parkway, or maybe it's Macomb, there are numerous areas that the county has gone out and painted pink paint between some of the very worst sections of road. There's about a dozen of them. They range in distance, linear feet. It's all on the west lane of East River, and they range from 50 feet to maybe 250 feet in length. And it's all the areas where the pavement has failed. It's alligator, it's breaking up, it's failed. So I know I've been asking Barry to try to find out what the county's intent there, and I guess you have a report.
Yes, the areas that were marked in pink are the areas that the county plans on this summer sometime, coming out and probably milling and replacing those sections. And as you mentioned, Bill, there's quite a few of them along East River Road between Parkway and Horse Mill. In the one in particular that's been a problem for a long time is Church in East River, and that was one of the areas that was marked.
So we've had a number of complaints about the intersection of Church Road and East River, and if that addresses that, that would be great.
Yes.
Also, we put on our list that both at Stout and at Island, where they come down the slope and meet East River, we had talked about going back up each of those roads 150 feet or so that as cars come down the road, they don't have the bumping effect, particularly with ice, and slide into East River unnecessarily. So why, to me, it's important we try to coordinate our work on Stout and Island with their work, and maybe even they'll do our work.
Well, I was just going to mention that. If we can coordinate it with the county, I think the county would probably be interested in doing our part of the work for us. If you recall in the past 3 or 4 years ago, they did some intersection work for us. I think we did like 9 different intersections around the island, and the county did those for us. I think we probably, in fact, I think Ohio from C.E. Raines has been talking to the county about getting them to assist us in doing the sections that we want to do. So that is definitely a possibility.
One thing, Barry, you should find out from Wayne County, are they going to do a full lane mill, or are they just going to mill out the bad spots? There's a number of spots in East River where they milled out areas 3 foot wide.
Don't hold me to this, but I think it's going to be a full lane mill. But I can
Yeah, that's where
confirm that. Yeah.
Looks like a full lane. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that would be item number 1 on the agenda. So if we ask them what they're going to do for us, then I think item number 2 is we could give them a report on what we're going to do, because we'll have already had the bids and our analysis, and we can give them a map showing them what improvements we're going to make.
Yes.
So we'll figure that out. The third item that we want to talk about is LaSalle Court. And the issue there is LaSalle Court is a small street in our community that's concrete road that's terribly deteriorated. And we know it's time we've got to start to do something about fixing it. We want to see what they're willing to do to participate in the cost of that. Another item I propose we discuss is the eligibility for federal grant funding. I've said it before, we have East River, Meridian, Parkway, I'm not sure about Church, Macomb, but primarily East River and Meridian, in my mind, they're eligible for federal grant funding of up to 80% funding. And the way the county works that is they budget $15 to $20 million a year for resurfacing. They call it resurfacing. And 80% of that money comes from federal grants. The federal highway bill. Every gallon of gas you buy, you spend 19 cents. It goes into the federal transportation fund, and it's redistributed to the states, and then the states are supposed to redistribute it to the regions and to the localities, county road commissions, cities, and so forth. Well, we've asked the question before, but I think we've got to keep pushing. If we want to plan for road improvements, if we somehow could go with a bond issue 3-4 years from now and raise money to cover the local 20% share, we'd like to get some of our roads on that, on the county 4-year road program. If the roads are not listed on the county road program, they're not going to be funded. I mean, you've got to be on the county, it's called the Transportation Improvement Plan. It's a 4-year, they call it, the acronym is TIP. So I guess we could ask about that again and keep pushing for it. I know Wally and Ted are very familiar with this. Maybe you have some comments on that item. If not, but we got to keep pushing, that's my point.
I agree with you about keeping pushing. I think that when you realize that they take our monies and divide it up by 84, we get 1/84th. 82 counties plus the city of Detroit gets an extra in that division. And the city of Detroit's got a lot of road work going on right now. So they're getting money from someplace. And, we'll hear all the arguments about traffic and low numbers and things like that, but let's just remember the philosophy of this roads millage that we've got now and that we've had historically. This is a millage that was originally intended to fix neighborhood roads first. And I'm never going to give up on the philosophy that the county's got to take care of our main roads. We're helping them with their neighborhood roads when we spend money in millage. I don't want to fix Meridian for them. I want them to fix Meridian. But I sure would like to see some of these side roads get a priority, and I'm happy to see that we're giving it that. Let's just not step out there and crack seal Meridian or something like that to give away funds that we've worked hard to get, and our township residents have graciously voted for us in a bad economy. Let's fix our neighborhood roads, because that's where our neighbors live. And that's what the philosophy of that system was all along.
All right, thank you. A fifth item I'd like to propose is we put on the agenda and ask him for a report, is what's the status of repairs, resurfacing, rebuilding the intersection of Jefferson and Grosse Hill Parkway. That intersection's worse every year. We had hoped some years ago when the bridge was closed for the whole summer that they would have fixed it then, but didn't. I hear rumors that it's on the list someplace to be fixed soon, but why don't we put that on the agenda and ask them, and let them know how interested we are. Do you have other items that you think should be put on the agenda?
Mr. Chair, just to comment on your statement. For years, it was very low priority for the Trenton administration to look at that particular intersection at Jefferson and Parkway. The new administration seems to be much more receptive to getting that done. They're getting a lot of complaints from their people, especially people moving back and forth to Trenton Engine Plant and stuff. So I think this has really moved up on their schedule, and that was from our conversation with the Wayne County people that were here. So I think that, yeah, we need to push it and see if we can't get a date, some kind of a date for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on any other comments about roads? Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, on the LaSalle Court, are we going to be in contact with Mr. Rossi or someone in that group? Because we did say we'd get back to him. I don't want to ignore him and, have him think that we reneged on what we
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, we will, yes. It's high on my list.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments? Tom, do you have any comments? Being a trustee about any of these issues?
I'm going to state my name, address.
That's not necessary.
Tom Elvesto, 8049 Berkshire. It's no secret, my main concern is Church Road from Meridian to East River Road, for the very simple fact that every day, every school day, all the buses that service Meridian Park Lane travel up that stretch 4 times a day, there and back, and they're loaded with school children. There are ditches, and the roadbed is deteriorating, the shoulders are deteriorating, and my real concern isn't so much the inconvenience of the neighbors that live in the area, but the fact that if someday a bus was to go off into the ditch, it's loaded with elementary school children. That's my main concern. That's all I have to say.
I added it to our list. Very good, we'll talk about it. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Item number 3 is the Meridian Road water main. This is we've heard about it before, but it's a new item that the DPW director would like to talk to us about. So Barry, can you give us a report on this?
Sure. If you recall, at the last commission meeting, we had a brief discussion about Meridian Road water main replacement. As you know, for the past 4 or 5 years, East River Road between Ferry and Horse Mill has been number 1 in position for replacement. We started designing that 5 or 6 years ago. We did bid it about a year ago, but it was put on hold. It's still there. We can do that project if the commission wants to move forward with it. My only concern is in the last, if we had done that project 5 years ago, everything would probably be okay right now. But in the last 4 or 5 years, Meridian Road has developed a lot of main break repairs on it. To give you an example, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had 17 water main breaks on East River between Horse Mill and Ferry. And on Meridian Road, we've had 40. So it's my thought that if we are only going to do one large project in the next 4 or 5 years, the commission, my recommendation would be that the commission take a look at replacing Meridian Road rather than East River. A couple of reasons behind that. Number 1 is the number of breaks we're having. They're expensive to repair. Meridian is one of our main thoroughfares. Every time we make a repair on that, there's usually some pavement that has to be removed that we have to put back rather extensively. Number 2 is if we have a water main break on East River Road, when the main breaks, it runs across the street into the river, and there's not much of an impact on the homes and the residents in that area. Along Meridian Road, when we have a main break, depending on its location, we've got some areas where the water surrounds people's homes because it doesn't have any place to drain. So that being said, and then it goes back to, like I mentioned earlier, it goes back to if we're only going to do one project in the next 3 or 4 years, we should take a look at Meridian.
Discussion, questions?
Mr. Chair, I've asked Ann to set up a flow chart on fall-off bonds, and pay off when we're going to pay them off on some of our capital projects that we're not currently bonded under. The current condition of the township financially and the fact that we're doing all we can to maintain reasonable water and sewer rates within the community, and the huge cost of this project, I think what we need to do before we take off on a track on this is to have a joint session with the township board, establish some real priorities, because this takes us out even beyond our current authorized bonding capacity. And I'm not sure that without some real heavy discussion with the township board I understand that this is probably a project we need to move forward on, but I think we need to take a real good look at what our bonding status is and when we're going to start paying down some of these capital improvement bonds, so we can look at this, because we would have to go out for additional bond authorization to fund a $3.5 million job.
What do we have right now, Ted? That slipped my mind. What we have bonded right now, the money available to us to do like East River Road, isn't
Just about $3 million.
about $3 million. That we already have.
That we have not bonded. We have authorized bonding at the township board level.
But we haven't obtained it yet because we're not ready to use it, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So, but I think we're dealing with a lot more issues than just a water main here. And I think we really need to do a real heavy analysis on where our current capital improvement bonds stand, when they're going to pay down, and so that we can make sure that we're not going to be affecting taxpayers further with
Sure.
water rates and sewer rates. This is a huge project.
Yes, I agree. So at this point in time, we're still going to hold East River Road replacement too? I mean, we're not going to move forward with that one at this time either?
I don't know. I think that's why this group should have a joint session
Okay.
with the township board to get some idea of their priorities moving forward.
Okay.
All of this would have to go in front of the board anyway.
Yes.
And we as a group need to sell this, whether it be the East River, the Horseville,
Yeah, to ferry.
to Ferry, whatever project that we're going to move forward with. I think we need to get some real guidance from township board at this point.
Well, I think you raise a great point. First thing I thought about was that I thought at one point that we had a plan for $3 million worth of water main replacement on East River and on Byromar, and now that's changing. But if you add the Meridian with the stub streets at the north end of Meridian before Bridge, which are Keith and Owen Streets,
Yes.
part of Horsemill, and that project alone is $483,000 added to the $3,000,003. You are almost at $4 million.
That's correct. That's a major stretch of water main replacement, no doubt. In fact, it's basically the full length of Meridian Road from Bridge Road going south. In fact, there's a couple of areas in there that, at this particular time, and I think it's between Horsemill and Whitehall, there's no small main in there. There's no 8-inch in there right now. Everything's hooked on to 16. So we'd also be engineering it to place the water main for the full length of Meridian Road, so we don't have any gaps in it. For future, my thought is we've got a 16-inch transmission main in there that's going to need replacing, upgrading soon. And with the technology that they have out there today, it appears right now the best way to approach that is line that old pipe in place. In other words, don't install a new one. It'd have to be taken out of service a section at a time. They go in, they clean it, and then they put a structural liner in it, and it's as good as new.
So you're talking about Meridian again.
Meridian. The transmission main also goes down Meridian.
And if we built the line on Meridian, I know the question was asked, it'll serve more people, but will it increase pressure to the majority, better the island, since it's through the center as opposed to just East River?
The main on Meridian Road right now is an 8-inch, other than the transmission, and that's the one that services most of the residents along there. Not too many homes are pulling from the 16. The plan is to replace Meridian Road with a 12-inch line, due to the fact it's a main artery that goes through the community. There'll be a 12-inch line around the perimeter of the island, East River, West River. There'll be a 12-inch line. If we get to Church Road and we replace that old line that's on Church, that should be probably a 12-inch, because that'll be a connector about mid-island from one side to the other. But Meridian Road should be a 12-inch all the way through, with minimal tie-ins. The only place you would tie in the 12-inch to the 16 is at the major road crossings. The transmission main, once you redo that line, you want to leave it strictly as a transmission main rather than service lines coming from it. So there's a lot of work to be done on Meridian, especially down the road if you're considering replacing or getting the county to redo Meridian Road. Before that's done, it would be wise to do the water main work along Meridian before you do any major road repairs.
Of course, the same is true with East River,
Yes,
as far as the road.
yes.
Ted, I think that's great if you are beginning to do that analysis. What is your recommendation? Should we...
Well, I think once we get the analysis, we hold a joint session with the township board and just establish some priorities. Obviously, our bonding capacity is great in the township. I mean, we have great bond ratings, but what's happened is when you tack on the sewage project on top of this, which is in actuality a loan, state revolving fund, but also it can be considered bonding. We're sitting out there with some huge bond debts that we need to address item for item and just have the township board give this commission direction and set the priorities. What priorities do we want to do? Is this the time, or do we wait till some of the capital improvement bonding falls off before we move on it? Is some of it going to move off in the next 2 or 3 years where we can kind of maintain some kind of a level? So that's just my suggestion. I think that's the smart way to go, so we don't end up in let's get everybody on the same page is what needs to be done.
Ted, do we have that in time for our next meeting, our next commission meeting?
I don't know. Ann's working on it right now. She's also working on getting data together for the annual audit, so I would think within the next couple of months we'd certainly have it by then.
Okay, so the minutes would reflect, I mean, I guess, I think the financial analysis is a must. And that includes looking at debt falling off, looking at our ability to pay, keeping our rates as they are, pretty much. So that whole financial picture is very important for capital planning. But I guess the question you're asking tonight, Barry, for direction is, would this commission favor the switch in priority, all other things being equal, based on your recommendation?
Yeah, and it is, and it probably isn't important after Ted wanting to take this to the board, which is a good idea. I mean, we should get their input on it, see kind of what direction they would want to go.
Right.
But that would be my recommendation, is to take a pretty thorough look at Meridian before we do East River Road now.
Okay, just to get a feel from the commission, is anybody opposed to that recommendation? It's new to us, to change from what our priorities have been, but is everybody okay with that?
Makes more sense.
Seems like there's a consensus of support then, okay?
Okay.
Anything more you need on that tonight?
No.
And we'll look forward to receiving something from Ted.
If we're going to do this, we should do it before winter sets in.
Well, if we decided to do Meridian Road, if we wanted to do that this year, we would have to put this plan on fast track, because there's a lot of engineering and design that would go along with it. It probably wouldn't be a project for this year. It probably would be for spring of next year, is about when we'd be ready.
I don't believe we have funding for it right now without getting some further bonding, so I don't think this is a this year project.
No. In fact, I don't even think a project of this magnitude, we're looking at almost 4.5 miles of water main along Meridian. It would probably take a good 3 or 4 months to design that system, because of the fact that it does involve our 16-inch transmission main also that needs to be done. So, yeah, pretty safe in saying that it wouldn't be a project that would go this year.
Even though it's not open cut, it's directional bore, there's still going to be a mess with it. And I would think you start it in the spring, hopefully.
Yes,
tie it up
yeah.
by the end of the
It would not be a
construction
2012 project.
Well, it's important we get that financial analysis. I thought that the $3 million was available to us now, but I guess it's not.
We haven't bonded it.
I know
We've approved it at the board level, but it hasn't bonded. We bonded 3 of the 6 that we approved. So there is 3 out there. But this project right here
4 million.
It's almost 3.5 million,
Well,
so,
it's actually 4 million.
yeah.
When you look at the connection of Owen and Keith Streets, it's very...
So we would need some further authorization or some...
Absolutely.
Further bond
And then, of
capacity.
course, long-term, Ted, it impacts East River and Byram.
Sure.
We've got the problems there. It impacts Church Road. I think if we were to do Church Road, we'd want to replace the water main on Church before we did Church Road, right?
Absolutely.
So we have some real issues with regard to water main.
Yeah.
If we did any repairs on West River Road, that water main has to be repaired. I think people have to keep in mind, some of our water mains are 70 years old. Some are undersized, and if you look at the pipes, and you have a 6 or an 8-inch pipe with all the mineral buildup that's built up, some of them are down to half the size in terms of what real capacity flows through the pipes. So,
Barry, you still have lead joint pipes?
Yes, we do. A lot of it. Everything East River Road that we're replacing is all lead joint, put in probably in 1930, 1935.
How about Meridian?
Meridian has some lead joint, a lot of it. A lot of the old 8 inches lead. Those mains are very old. I mean, yeah. No, yeah.
I also just like to indicate, for Mr. Valvesto's sake and Mr. Kennedy, that we still have the bigger issue of our water contract with Detroit facing us in 2014 and 15. And I still would like to get moving at some point, Ted, and you've indicated once to me that we needed a reapproach Trenton. But looking at Wyandotte as a viable future source of water supply, perhaps with Trenton, in cooperation with Trenton, and maybe even Riverview. So in my mind, that's still sitting out there.
Well, I'm not sure that Trenton's in the game.
I know.
I'm not sure they're in the game at all.
I understand that. So it's
Unless we want to delay this whole project, if you feel, or this commission feels, that it might be time to invest the money and effort into a study with Wyandotte, I don't have any objection to that.
well, it wouldn't cost that much, but I don't want to delay any of these projects for that, because we learn time's on our side in some respects. Detroit might, well, I mean, the hope is that at some point over the next 3 or 4 years, Detroit water system, Detroit city government might see some reorganization that brings about a different approach from EWSD.
Sure. I just think it's important to note that a lot of the things that we had planned in our 5- and 10-year plan moving forward 10 years ago was thrown a terrific loop by this sewer rehab project, which really stressed our bonding capacity and really stressed our debt load on the community. Although it's coming down now, we're still communicating, and not favorably, with the DEQ with regards to some of the issues we have with the plan at this time. So we've got a lot of issues in front of us that I don't see them getting any better in the next 6 months.
All right.
But I think we need to get this board and whoever sits on the next board right up to speed immediately, because we have a lot of dollars out there. So.
Okay, anything more on the Meridian water main? Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, the only statement I want to make is that if we come to the conclusion that we can do something, we do have to have an education of the residents in there. We have to go out and make them understand what's going on with the project.
It's a good point, Jim. Very good. In fact, I like to call those public information meetings where we could have one early on, let people know that something's coming. Thank you. Any other comments? If not, we'll move on. Action items, dust control bid award. Barry?
Yes, we received bids this year on April 19th for our dust control on our gravel roads for the 2012 season. In front of you, you have the 4 bidders that bid the project. We have 3 prices in front of you for chloride brine, which is salt water, basically, and we have 1 price for calcium chloride. and we have one bid for dust bond. Now, since I've been here, we've always used dust bond material or a Pentaseal product, which is, both of these are similar.
All right, I'll move that dust bond as bid, 58 cents a gallon.
Been a motion to accept the bid for D&D Emulsions out of Mansfield, Ohio, for 58 cents a gallon for dust bond. And that's the only price that...
Of that type of
We got
material,
dust
yes,
bond
yes.
material.
And we've got an expert, we're fortunate enough to have an expert on dust bond material on our commission, and that's Mr. Posiak. If he would like to give us a brief overview of that material versus...
It's an alternative to the brines. It's a more friendly environmental product. The brines are pollutants. The theory is that when you put a brine down, it causes moisture to be held in the salt, which is calcium chloride or sodium chloride. And the theory is that keeping the water bound up in the salt will somehow, the word is agglomerate, make big, it's got to makes big particles out of smaller particles, and so the particles get to a size that they don't tend to be as dusty. Unfortunately, when you put calcium chloride down, it soon disappears. And when you put dust bond down, one application, or occasionally two applications in a year, seems to hold up very well. Dust bonded roads look like bad asphalt after a period of time. And the way we do them is the same way that the county is, and we have always done roads. You go out and you grade the road in the spring, and then you put the dust control material on. Now, the dust bond lasts throughout the season. It doesn't really evaporate. It tends to be a mild nutrient if it does get into a sewer, so from an environmental standpoint, it's good. But proof's in the pudding, and over the years that we've used it here, people who have had their roads chlorided and then dust bonded would never go back to chloride. I'm thinking of some of the folks here just very close to the waste treatment plant. Bob Zelasco, one of
Yes.
the more vocal ones. He's a good salesman for dust bond too, whether he knows it or not. But stuff just works. It keeps our roads from being dusty, and it doesn't take a great deal of maintenance once you put it down.
No. And
When you go to chloride, you got to put it down 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and you've lost that big cost advantage.
sure, to knock it out. And last year, we were fortunate enough, we had a good season. The first application went down very well. We only applied it one time last year throughout the season. There's been years where we weren't that fortunate. We've done it up to 3 times in one year on occasion. But it all depends on the season. But I believe it's good material also.
It's not a substitute for paving,
That's right.
but it is certainly a very, very nice alternative to other dust control materials.
Any other comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion, or do we have a motion?
We have a motion.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And so we're recommending to the Township Board that they award the contract to D&D for the dust bond. The next item, Barry, is a request to authorize your proceeding with taking bids for the RBC drive, the drive sprockets and chain and chains that function to work our wastewater treatment operation at the wastewater treatment plant. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, that's correct. This is an item that is listed in the budget for this year. The estimated cost is $64,000. These have not been, these are the sprockets that have been installed in 1988, and they've just worn out. Their useful life is gone. This is going to be like a 2-phase project. The first phase of it will be procuring the parts, and that we intend to do. Joe and I will put the parts together. We will purchase those directly through the township. They're a single-source item. One manufacturer produces those. We'll get those through the township so we can save sales tax when we purchase the items. The second phase of it will be getting quotes on the labor portion of it, actually doing the work and replacing them. So it's kind of a twofold project, and we just want the authorization from the commission to move forward and start getting those prices around, and we'll get them around, and then we can either bring them back here or take them directly to the township board for approval.
Now, this past year, several of the chains broke.
We had some chains broke. Basically, what's happening is the sprockets are actually wearing.
Just to give people an idea, as I would describe it, part of the chain or sprocket section, they're about 3 inches high and maybe 8 to 10 inches each little section.
They're a very large chain.
Substantial chain.
Yes, a very large chain, and look at it as an oversized bicycle chain. It works the same way. The sprocket on a bicycle only many times bigger, and that process is just worn.
Any further discussion?
Just a question.
Questions?
I'm sure that there's got to be somebody else here that doesn't know what RBC stands for. But I'll have the courage to admit that I don't.
Can you explain that, Barry?
No. It slips my mind right now what RBC stands for.
RBC drive.
Yeah.
So that's a component that drives the
It's a
train?
yes, it is.
Maybe by the time this matter comes back to us, then.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Joe is...
Is it a big chain?
It's a big chain, and I'll get the information for you, but Joe couldn't be here tonight. He had to go to a company meeting in Massachusetts, and he got on an airplane this afternoon to leave town, so Joe could not be here tonight to assist me.
So when
with
it comes
this.
back, just bring back an explanation.
Okay.
So it's not a well-known acronym.
We know this has been in our capital plan to replace those parts for some.
I'll make the motion.
Moved and supported that on action item number 2 at the wastewater treatment plant, that the RBC drive sprockets and chains, that the staff be authorized to go out and acquire replacement parts. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's just for the quotes for these parts, is that correct? You'll come back with an actual price?
Yes, we can actually get a hard price on the parts themselves, on the material. That's, like I say, single source. We can nail that down. What we'll need to do and get quotes for is the actual labor to do the...
So does this motion to do both?
I can do both. We can put it together as a package and bring it back.
Why would we give you authorization to obtain the quotes if it's a single source? Why don't you?
No, only the parts are single source. We can get some quotes on the labor portion of it, the tear down and replacement.
Is it $64,000 for the whole project?
The whole project. There's about, the parts will run between $35,000 and $40,000, and the remainder, the $24,000, $25,000 will be in labor costs to install it.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
That we authorize to obtain quotes for replacement parts and installation with the RBC drive sprocket and chain.
Okay.
That way we get it all done at one time, we come back with a number, we go to the board.
Right, and that was my intent. We could put both numbers together at the same time, but there will be two separate items.
Frank, would you accept that change?
Certainly will.
That makes sense. Okay, so now we're authorizing both the obtaining of the parts, quotes for the parts, and for the labor for installation.
Correct.
Everybody agree with that, understand that? Any further questions? If not, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the motion is carried unanimously. With that, we have a couple of people in the audience, and it's time for public comment. Is there anything anyone wishes to discuss? Seeing that the audience is quiet, we'll move on. Chairman's report. I always talk about the items that are on the agenda, so I don't have an additional report tonight. Commissioners' items. Mr. Budney.
Nothing.
Mr. Rather.
Nothing further.
Mr. Kent.
Nothing, sir.
Ozias.
Yeah, I'd like to see some attention given to the wooden bridges over the Thoroughfare Canal and at the south end, the Anna Grove. We are getting deteriorated in our finishes again. Can we get some idea of what it'll take to get them refinished?
I think
Cleaned and resealed?
it's been a couple of years since we've redone
They're
those.
looking pretty rough.
Yeah.
They won't lose stuff like that.
All right, so, again, those wooden bridges were over the bike path between Ferry and Lowry.
Right?
And where's the other one?
South one, Route 1. Right, just,
Meridian.
And there's one right across from the Meridian Elementary School, too. There's 3 of them.
3 bridges.
So you'll look into that?
Yes, and what we've done in the past is we've solicited quotes for the cleaning and restaining of those structures.
And we've had varying degrees of success with that. I'd give strong credence to the guy who did it last. He did a beautiful job.
Yeah, he did.
Last year, didn't we,
2 years ago.
That was 2
last
years
year,
ago.
we paid somebody to clean up all the poison ivy and,
Last year we did. We went and did a lot of brush clearing along all of those bridges. We did that with our own forces.
wrong people.
By the way, the tree cleanup that you went forward with over this past month looks good. A lot of dead trees through the Winter Lane, sticking out of the woods over the right-of-way, alongside roads, both on Parkway and Meridian. We cleaned it up pretty well.
And I think we came in, don't hold me to the number, but I think, we've expected to pay somewhere in the neighborhood like $6,000 for that cleanup. I think it came in under $4,000, so for that work that they
Very
did.
good. Mr. Van House, anything?
No,
Okay, so there are no commissioner reports. Our next meeting is 7:30 on June 12th. If there's no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and supported that we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Good night. Thank you.